Let's take a look at adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing integers. Now, I call these shortcuts. They're not exactly shortcuts, but they're ways of simplifying. I'd say numbers, but it actually can apply to anything. If you have a negative, then a parentheses, then a negative, and then a single number, like this, then negative negative becomes positive. If you have a negative, and then a beginning parentheses, and a positive, and then a single number, a negative parentheses positive becomes negative. If you have a positive, and then a negative, and then a number, that becomes negative. And if you have a positive and a positive, positive gives you a positive. So any place in math you run across this, you should apply these shortcuts. Now there just doesn't have to be a single x here, or a single number. It can be a single x, it can be a single anything. Later on in intermediate algebra, when you have a negative, parentheses negative, and this is a square root, again it'll become positive. But signs are the same, becomes positive. Signs are different, becomes negative. It's pretty easy to remember. Now let's talk about combining numbers. I don't like to think of it as adding or subtracting. I like to think of it as just combining numbers. You got positive numbers, you got negative numbers. We got case 1. Signs are the same. They're both positive or both negative. We're going to ignore the signs. Then we're going to add the numbers. Then our sign of our answer is the original sign, whatever they were originally. Now we have case 2. Signs are different. One's positive, one's negative. First step, we'll again ignore the signs. Subtract the smaller number from the larger number. So subtract smaller number from larger number. And then 3, sign of the answer is the original sign of the larger number. And we're going to use those in working these first problems. So our first one, you got -5 plus 13. Well, this is case 2. Signs are different. So it says you ignore the signs. So I'm going to write 5 and 13 over here. Subtract a smaller number from a larger number. So we've got 13 minus 5. That gives us 8. And sign of the answer is the original sign of a larger number. Our larger number was 13, which originally was positive. So this is going to be a positive 8. Or just 8. Let's look at this one. Got -8 plus and a -2. Now again, this is one of our little shortcuts here. Plus parentheses minus becomes a minus. So I'm going to rewrite this as -8 and -2. Again, I'm not going to think of this as subtraction. In mathematics, you can really kind of mess yourself up by trying to think about this too much. People say, well, I can't wrap my mind around unless you put it into a practical example. Well, pretty soon you're going to find that you can't come up with a practical example of some of this stuff, or a lot of it. So you just have to kind of accept, and it's just rules you learn step by step. Well, here we got case 1. Signs are the same. So we'll go through these 3 steps. Ignore the signs, add the numbers, sign the answer as the original sign. Okay, so ignore the signs. So we got 8 and 2. Add the numbers. We got 8 plus 2 gives us 10. And sign of the answer is the original signs, which was negative. So this is negative 10. Now 3. We got negative 10, 24, and negative 7. Well, this first set of parentheses isn't doing anything, so I'm going to drop it. And then we've got plus 24. Plus parentheses minus becomes a minus from our shortcuts up above. And let's do these first 2 numbers here. Well, signs are different. So our steps, this case 2, our steps say to ignore the signs. So we got 10 and 24. Subtract a smaller number from a larger number. 24 minus 10 gives us 14. And the sign of our answer is sign of the original sign of the larger number, which is 24, which was positive. Then I'll bring down to minus 7. Now this is case 2. Signs are different, but if you already know how to do something, don't like reinvent the wheel. You know how to do 14 minus 7. It gives you 7. That's our answer. Now those cases will work up above, but you don't need to do it for some of these. Now this next one introduces a new concept, and we're going to show it with an example. We're given negative 5. And it says determine the additive inverse of each number. Well, the additive inverse is that number with the sign change. So negative 5 becomes a positive 5. And let's look at some more combining numbers. 9 minus a negative 2. This is one of our shortcuts. Negative parentheses negative becomes a positive. So this becomes 9 plus 2. And if I add those together, it gives me 11. Didn't have to use our cases. We know how to do 9 plus 2. Let's take a look at this one. Got negative 50 minus a negative 2. Again, you don't want to think about what this means. What is a negative 50 minus a negative? What in the world does it mean? You could try to put it on a number line and wrap your mind around that, and you're thinking too hard on it. They're just simple rules. Negative parentheses negative becomes a positive. So this becomes negative 50 plus 2. Now this is case 2. Signs are different. One's positive, one's negative. So I ignore the signs. So I got 50 and 2. We're going to subtract the smaller number from the larger number. So 50 minus 2 gives us 48. And the sign of our answer is the original sign of the larger number. Larger number is 50, and it originally was negative. So negative 48 is our answer. Now if you got multiplication, you multiply just like normal, but you look at the signs. If I got a negative number times a negative number, that's going to give me a positive number. If we have a positive number times a positive number, that's going to give us a positive number. If we have a positive number times a negative number, that's going to give us a negative number. And if we have a negative number times a positive number, that's going to give us a negative number. Now for division. Division, you divide just like normal. It's just your sign of your answer is the only thing that you have to worry about. If we got negative, divide by negative. Now I'm going to use a fraction symbol here to indicate division. Well, negative divided by negative is positive. If we have a positive divided by a positive, that's going to give us a positive. If we have a positive divided by a negative, that's going to give us a negative. And if we have a negative divided by a positive, that's going to give us a negative. Now again, the signs are the same, becomes positive. Signs are different, becomes negative. And that's in both multiplication and division. So let's look at some problems. We got negative 5 times negative 8. Now to begin with our sign, a negative times a negative is a positive, so we know what that's going to be. And 5 times 8 is 40. So our answer would be a positive 40. Let's look at another one. Negative 2 times 3 times negative 4. Well, let's first multiply these first two numbers together. Now, negative times a positive is a negative, and 2 times 3 is 6, and then I'll carry down the negative 4. Now here, a negative times a negative is positive, and 6 times 4 is 24. So that'd be your answer. Now these next ones ask us to find the reciprocal. It says multiplicative inverse. We start with 5, and we want to write this in fraction form. You can always create a fraction by putting it over 1. To get our reciprocal, it's best shown with an example like we're doing here. Reciprocal just means flip the fraction. So 5 over 1 becomes 1 over 5. Now next one, we got 2 over 3. And they want us to come up with the reciprocal. Again, we're going to flip the fraction. Now this one's already in fraction form, so that'll just be 3 over 2. So very, very straightforward. Go back up here, do number 11. This is division. We got negative 30 over negative 3. Well, to begin with, a negative divided by negative is positive, and 30 divided by 3 gives us 10. So our answer is positive 10. And our last problem, we got negative 25 over 5. Well, a negative divided by positive is negative. Signs are different, it's negative. And 25 divided by 5 gives you 5. So our answer would be negative 5. Again, don't let combining numbers worry you too much. It's like, why is that the case? Can you give me a practical example? I'm sure you probably don't ask that many questions when the English teacher said, I before E except after C. You probably didn't sit there and lose sleep about why the C was different, why they choose this rule, who made it up, what purpose, so forth. They're just basic rules you follow.